Alright folks, sorry about the delay on this tutorial. I've been doing some other things, mostly 3D modeling, just getting into that now. Been away from Hammer for a bit. So, in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to make those balancing platforms I had in up and down, or no, sorry, not up and down. They do go up and down. The push and pull, the map that pretty much everyone hates because of the blobs. Still don't know what to do with those, but that's not the point. Okay, so let me see here. I created a blank map file, so I didn't have to recreate it on the screen, and now Hammer has crashed. Great. Okay, in 1 second. I'll double click on this blur item here. Oh, that's what it's called. Physics Weight Platforms. Good. It wasn't even open, and I somehow remembered it. Okay. Now that we're in, there is an empty map. So, the first thing we need, the platforms themselves. No, actually, I'll make them a different color. So, yeah, that's good. Go into here and make a 128 by 128 by 8 box or brush, and go and put it in the middle of the map. I'll explain this later. And go ahead and shift drag copy over, and let's go ahead and Control T, assign it to an entity, and let's make it a fizz box. Give it a second. Alright, and let's call this Platform 1. Go ahead and copy this, click on the other brush we have, Control T, then paste. And go to the name and change it to Platform 2. Okay, quick save there. Next up, we're going to need to have the actual pulley system. So to do that, go to Entities, this right here, in case you guys don't know. And this is your pulley. There it'll be. There it'll be. Oh, okay. And let's go ahead and drag this over here. And the top view, I'm going to center it off. Now don't need to give it a name, but its first entity is going to be Platform 1. And the second entity is going to be Platform 2. Now, I'm making the first entity Platform 1 because I have the pulley constraint set on top of it. The way this is going to work is you're going to have the first pulley's physical location is going to be right here. The second pulley's physical location is actually going to be the entity's origin. Now to move that, it's this little circle right here. Just move the cursor around until it changes. I don't know if you see it turn to a crosshair or not, but now you can drag it over. And I'm going to drag this to the center of Platform number 2. So if you look here in the side view, pulley 1 is right here, pulley 2 is over here. Okay? Now, next thing we're going to need is a slide constraint. That way the platforms only move up and down. You're going to need one for each platform. So, let's create a slide constraint over here. And I'm going to put this at the bottom, on the ground actually. All the way down here. Completely on the ground, but close enough. And shift, left click, drag all the way over to make a copy. Now how the slide constraints work, for this case you're only going to need one entity per slide constraint. So Entity 1 or Entity 2 is going to be Platform 1, not both. Don't make Entity 1 and Entity 2 Platform 1. Not what we want here. So just the first entity of Platform 1. And this is going to work similar to the pulley system, except you're going to drag the same origin up all the way to the top, because this is going to be the line that the platform is allowed to move on. If I drag this over here, it only move in a diagonal. So we want these to move straight up and down. Go over to the second slide constraint and set entity 1 to the one platform right above it, platform number 2. Go in, click on the very center to grab the origin and bring it all the way to the top. Be very careful that you don't take the origin and put it outside the map. That'll cause a leak. Even though your map is sealed, that will cause a leak. And the map in Portal 2, it won't even compile. In Portal and in previous source engines, and it'll compile, but you'll have a leak. So you leave it in here, Portal 2, you get some red text in the console. That the map launcher that pops up. Okay. Now, the way things are right now. Actually, let me jump on in and show you what happens. Those are good parameters. Come on, hammer. And now Portal 2. Any second now. Here we go. While we're waiting for it, I noticed that I have about a 3-second delay from the time I start recording to the time that Afterburner starts recording, because it has to wait for the desktop window manager to switch to basic mode, the basic themes, and those arrows no longer running. I don't know why it does that, but I remember reading a forum post from the guy who made RevoTuner, which Afterburner is based on, said that if you don't have arrow auto disabled, it won't record anything. I don't know why that would be the case, but I am not going to fret over it. This works out fine. Now, turn on cheats, get myself the portal gun, and let's create a cube. Up here is kind of good. And there you have it, slide constraints. Now, it's not exhibiting the same behavior that I used to see before. Okay, so let me hop down on top of it, or miss and wait for it to come to me. Okay. Oh, right, select, let's see what it would, okay. So, I was going to put a fizz upright on it, and as it turns out, that's no longer needed, although at one point in time it was, when I was making a push and pull, but apparently not this time around. That's okay. So, what fizz upright would do is, well, exactly what it says. Keep the entity that you bind to it upright. So if I were to put it in the map here, and let's go ahead and create a shape. Name it box. Create entity, box. Next up, clone box. Remove name. This is just to illustrate what fizz upright would do. So don't really game after compiling because it's not going to work. I'll just go ahead and write down here. That box goes away. Map. I noticed that also here the map list shows up in the order that you've last modified a map. It sorts by recently modified. So that's new. Okay, so we have. Ow. Let me give myself a fizz gun again. I think I made these too heavy. Yep, a little too heavy. Alright, let me choose the mass scale. Okay. Alrighty, make sure the flags are set. Okay. That compile. You guys get to see a cursor on the middle of the screen running around. I don't see that. Oh, okay, I can't pick this up. This is a little concerning. I know what I'm doing! Really? exploitable work layer. Okay. Alright, there it goes. That'll have to do. Alright, sorry, I'm playing around with this a little. Notice how it keeps trying to readjust itself. Whereas this box right here doesn't bother. I put it at the top here and have it fall a distance. That one just kind of flies all the way down, rotates as it goes. This one, you see how it's changing the way it falls. It's floating back and forth like a piece of paper. This upright is doing its hardest to keep that running, or to keep that facing up. And because the angular limit is rather low, it can't handle that. If I were to bump this up to, say, 60, go in, and this time around, use the portal gun, and not try and use the use key to pick them up, because for some reason they aren't picking up. I've forgotten something, and I really don't know what it was. This is what happens when you go in tangents, people. Portal gun. See, that one just kind of flies about. This one, however, will, after I get the fall, stay perfectly flat, except when it goes too fast. It'll start wobbling around once you go past that limit, but aside from that, it'll just fall and stay flat, as opposed to the other one here. So, Fizz upright, a little tricky to use, but I don't have the best shape to illustrate this, but anyways. All these platforms, we have two constraints going on. We have, back to the tutorial, yes. We have this slide constraint and then a pulley constraint, which I have something over here. That's two different physics simulations running on the same two entities, and that can clash. So, well, by clash I mean, let's say you chose a ball constraint or something. That means platform 2 is supposed to go up and 5 units and then rotate 5 degrees to the left. Or platform 1 is supposed to go 10 units down and rotate 15 degrees to the right, or something like that. It'll try, not having them separate like that will cause the engine to freak out. The simulation will clash, and well, if they're tied together, one has to be here, but the other one has to be here as well, and you'll see them fidget around. What you need is something to manage that, to say, okay, if he's supposed to move 5 and he's supposed to move 10, let's just take the difference and do it that way. And it'll make things a little more amicable. Yeah. Haven't used that word in a while. So, there's an entity for this. There's an app for that. And that's called a constraint manager, or constraint system. So, just because I'm going to put it in the center of both entities. And if you go to the help here, it'll manage a group of interacting constraints. So we have the pulley constraint and the slide constraint. They'll bounce around and then fidget on their own if they're left unchecked. This way, I'll tell them to send what each platform should be at to a single entity, and that entity will then resolve all the data it gets to balance things out and set things where they should be in a good physics simulation, instead of things fighting each other. As it says right here, they'll fight each other during simulation. I didn't have to say that. So, click on the pulley constraint all the way up here, which is really hard to click from this distance, so there we go. Look at the entity, Constraint System Manager. So I'll go ahead and click the eyedropper tool, or button, and then, oh right, I have to give the name first. Manager. So, the Constraint System Manager, eyedropper, Manager. And over here we have the slide constraint, up to the top, Manager. And now the next constraint, up to the top, Manager. Alright. Now you notice I'm not using ropes. That's because, well, ropes are pretty much cosmetic only. They don't really do anything. Now that I have these two here, I'll show you what I mean. So we have this move rope, stick it at the top, and put it above box 2. Okay. Now, for ropes, everything goes by keyframes, and keyframes are pretty much points in the rope. So if I were to create a keyframe rope, another entity, now points in the rope is not very specific. I'm going to illustrate this for you right here. So I'll go ahead and name this. Actually, grab this one, move it down so the origins are the same level. Keyframe rope, I'm going to call it point 1. Point 1. No, point 1. Okay, so next keyframe is going to be point 1. Okay, and you see this line going right across. This little thing right here. If I were to give this a little more slack, let's say 100, you see it dips down a little. Now, if I were to take this keyframe rope, drag it over, just like a path track, it'll auto-rename to point 2, because it ends in a number. Point 1 becomes point 2. And now this rope goes across. If I were to compile this and go to the map, it's taking a little longer to compile for some weird reason. No-clip myself up there. Yes, Craigslist. I am still looking for a job. No. There you go. So we have the move rope, the origin of the rope right here, which dips down to the first point right here, and then goes across to this point here. Point number 2. So that's basic rope. The thing about ropes is they don't have a physical constraint to them. If I were to put this over here, or to make this keyframe rope stick with this parent to box number 2, okay, the rope will just stay with that and expand and contract depending on where the box goes. I guess I mess up the portal gun. Cheats are already on. That's good. Go over here and drop it. See, it'll simulate with itself, but it won't do anything else. And you notice that if it goes through a portal, it doesn't physically simulate through it. It just snaps straight to it. Oh, that was a nice run. You see that there's no constraint whatsoever to it. So you need something like a ball constraint or a pulley constraint to make this look right. So, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and do that. So, grab this rope. Put it in the center here. Take this and pull it up, reduce the grid size, bring it over here, change the parent to platform 1. I'm not being as direct in this tutorial as I usually am, so sorry about that. And again, should I be sorry? No. Oh, I copied the pulley constraint. Whoops. That's the move rope I wanted. Okay. And because I copied the keyframe rope, you can see the rope has gone straight across. I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to clear the keyframe out of there. Next keyframe does not exist. Now there's no rope going across. Now take this move rope, and next keyframe will be point number 3. Okay. To the center and change the parent to platform 2. There we are. Compile that. Alrighty. I'll just hop on down here. Hop. There we go. And I can see they're physically simulated, and the ropes are, it's rather unrealistic. There we go. And the ropes are moving up and down with their respective platforms, though there is that little issue of the slack that I gave it. Because it has so much slack, it's folding on itself. So to get rid of that, where's this one? No slack whatsoever. Alright. Okay, I'm getting really tired of giving myself the portal gun every single time, so I am going to give myself the portal gun once. There we go. Compiled. Change the map. There we are. And I'm just going to drop cubes on it. Cube. Oh, no, it's still doing it. And I'll clip up there. I think it has to do with the keyframe rope being positioned around there. No. Oh, right, it's still going to have some slack on it. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So, fiddle around with the rope to get it the way you want it. This tutorial is getting to be a little long. Whoa, 23 minutes. Yeah, and I think I just got louder right there. Sorry. That's really all there is to it. Went off on a few tangents, so the core tutorial is there, just under some fluff. And yeah, that's it. So with that, if you have any questions, my usual spiel, go ahead and send me a comment, PM me, here. I haven't gone anywhere. Rather sad, really. But that's a topic for another time. Okay, adios.